As a starter, I have a silly question for you, or an interesting one. Which one do you want to answer?
Always the silly one.
The silly one, okay. Yesterday, someone said to me, an anonymous person said that they have a question for you. They want to know that when you were a student at a film school in Film School in Denmark, did you know that all the girls was really fall in love with you when you were a student? Did you know that? Did you realize that? Actually, I don't know who said that to me, but maybe somebody will know you really well.
It's Suzanne gossiping, I know that.
I said nothing.
But I didn't know that, no.
So you never take advantage of that?
I didn't actually.
Really?
But there was a theater school close by.
It was easier to seduce
different
actresses.
You know, the years of film school was very disturbing. I think I got in at 19. And it was a very mature thing to do at 19. And the whole responsibility in having to grow up this fast was enough for me not to pay attention to the girls. Mm-hmm. But I have to tell you, the parties at the film school was not very interesting.
Yeah, okay.
People talk too much in my business.
Why you said it was a big decision to go in a film school when you were 19?
Because normally people are older in that school, okay. And everyone was older. Actually, I wanted to be a guitarist. So suddenly being at the film school was slightly confusing, but it was a great opportunity as well, and I enjoyed it. It was important years.
And you did never imagine being a filmmaker without going in a film school? Finding a way by yourself outside the school or learning on set and everything like that?
Really great filmmakers has done really well without film schools, yes. But me, I learned everything, which is not that much, at film school. The few tricks that I keep using, I took from there.
As what? When you say tricks?
Well, depending on what department, if it's about writing, if it's about acting. What I learned primarily at film school was finding out what is my story. What makes me, what's the kind of story I want to tell. I bumped into it. I opened myself up to this opportunity of being at a school and telling stories, and suddenly I found some stories that kept me awake at night, and apparently people were interested in them. And I found that at film school, en source, if you like, in French, which I think maybe is the most important thing. I learned to hide what the main subject of your movie is.
But what was your relation with film before that, with cinema in general? You have a culture, you like to go to film, you are this kind of people, film goer, for example, or not?
No, I was a very shy person when I was young, and for that reason I dreamt of being famous. Because then I thought, when I enter a room, then people will at least know who I am. And that's why I played guitar.
To be famous?
Yes.
And why it didn't work?
And it didn't work for me.
Why? You are not
I wasn't good enough. And because they started playing really boring music, my friends. They started playing funk music, which is very, very difficult and very boring. It was too complicated and the point was not easy enough. So I started movie making. But I very quickly realized that in making movies, it's a collective effort. A lot of craft from a lot of people pursuing very little, tiny, fragile moments in humanity. And I really enjoyed that. And I felt at home doing that. I must remind you that, I don't know if you know, but I grew up in a commune. It's a big house full of hippies with, genitals and eye height. And so being a part of a group was always natural for me. And exploring the human fragility and the humankind was, as a group effort, really attracted me very quickly. And I found that at film school.
So the school was a kind of continuity about the fact that you were living in a community, then going to the film school all together.
Right.
After that, when you was out, you created this movement, Dogma,
Right.
where you are all together too. Because generally, filmmakers are really lonely
Right.
when they are working.
Not in Denmark.
And it's still the case now today.
A little bit less, but because we all left Denmark and are having careers outside. But Dogma, yes, was exactly the same. Like my parents, they move into a house, they break with the family tradition, they buy a nice house because they can't afford it because they're like 15 people. Mm-hmm. And they do something illegal and courageous and strange and dangerous, but they do it together. They break with the family structure of Denmark by doing that. And Dogma had the same feeling, yes. I was warned against doing that. People called me and said, are you going to commit career suicide?
Mm-hmm. Why suicide?
Oh, because they saw the rules and they said it's not possible to make a movie like that. But jumping off a cliff is nice if you hold hands with someone. It's a fantastic sensation. And as I just said on the screen before, the feeling of doing something risky and being part of an exploration where you don't know the result of it makes you very open, and very curious, and yes, it opens you up to the world, which is why I thought that was a great moment as well as being in a comic. Yeah.
And why do you think that today there is no more maybe this feeling to, or this pleasure or this desire to be all together in Denmark too? The young filmmakers who are going out of school now are not working together. Don't make a kind of Dogma or something like that. They live for themselves. They make film for themselves. Why something like that disappear?
Well, I think times have changed, and people have realized the value of individual freedom, and they're allowed to have that feeling, and the sense of privacy and auteurism is apparently more important to people than the group therapy feeling of Dogma or whatever. And
you are nostalgic of those times, or not really?
Not really. I really enjoyed those times, but I enjoy the times now as well. So I'm not that nostalgic about it.
And you keep contact with all these filmmakers you were working with at this time?
Some of them, yeah.
And you talk about your project even when you were in America?
I have some other filmmakers, Danish filmmakers, who I always keep contact with, yes. And the family that I formed at film school, I'm calling it a family because we became a group of people who really keep in contact. Yes, we see each other all the time. And I would never write a script without them reading it. And they would always come to my editing room and see the last edit that I did. And they have seen everything I've done, and I've seen everything they've done. So we've seen each other really ugly. We've seen each other, all the shit that they've done as well, and what I've done. So they know my mistakes, and the honesty is actually a virtue of generosity, I think. But it's brutally honest, I have to say.
And when you did your first film, Festen, your first film that we saw here in France or in Switzerland, Festen, it was such a shock for a lot of filmmakers around the world, especially in Europe, but everywhere. You were a young filmmaker, and it was a new film with using a new technology, camera DV, to be more flexible, light, and everything. Did you realize the impact of this film on all these films from Dogma in the film industry, and was it easy for you to be a kind of representative of a new way of cinema, being so young?
Well, first of all, our humble ambition was to make a wave. So we wanted this, obviously. In all our arrogance and self-absorbance, we wanted everyone to look at what we did. We never thought it would happen. And we never thought it would happen this massively. And what we did not know, I guess, is that the opening of our films in Cannes in '98, to that extent also became the beginning of the end of Dogma. Because Dogma was made as a riot. It was made as a riot against the film society. It was made as a riot against the mediocrity in filmmaking, also the mediocrity of our own filmmaking. This comes creeping in from everywhere. And we took a chance by doing that. And also we wanted to undress the filmmaking and witness something as truthful as possible, okay? Now, Cannes 98, it becomes fashion overnight. It becomes, in my country, you can still buy Dogma furniture, for Christ's sakes. So very quickly we realized that the recipe is now changed. It's no longer a risk or a riot. It's a prolongation of your success. It's a career move. It's different. It's not attractive to me. So I had to steer somewhere else. Now, yet still, I had to represent. I was called the Dogma spokesman. I should never have done that. I did, I don't know, thousands of interviews about this for years. Here's another one. And
yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay.
No more questions about Dogma. I understand it. Okay.
It's been some years ago. It's been like it's 20 years ago. This. So fuck it. Let's do another one. But that for me was really boring, I have to say. And it put me personally in a difficult situation as a filmmaker because I felt I had done something ultimately. I felt I had gone down a road and I couldn't come further. Like as a filmmaker, you're an explorer. You have to keep your curiosity up. And the moment you find the recipe, you're fucked. Sorry about my French, but and I kind of did. I went all the way with this movie, and I felt I had to go somewhere else.
How difficult it was to make another film after this one for you?
Incredibly difficult, because Dogma is about restraining yourself. It's like if you imagine you're a painter, and you cut down your canvas to like a square meter, and your palette of colors to like 3 or 4 at the max, and suddenly I had a canvas of a square kilometer. And everyone was calling, and I had all the opportunities in the world. I didn't even know if I was supposed to do a movie in Danish anymore. Everything opened up, and that was slightly confusing, I have to say. But also opened up a lot of new fantastic adventures.
My question is about the table seems to play an important role in your movies, like for example in Festen, in A Man Comes Home, in La Commune. And so we'd like to know how would you define it? Does it illustrate a place of tradition and an institution in which you put the protagonists to underline the disparity between them? Or how do you see this place which is so important in your films?
Well, for me, the dinner table means everything. It's an altar. It's a place where you sacrifice people. It's a place where I've seen wars. And it's a place where I've seen the utmost lovable moments. The house that I grew up in was a huge mansion full of people. And they all gathered around this table. Every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes also Sunday, this dinner, everyday dinner would develop into an alcoholic hubbub of a kind, with a lot of very intellectual, well-off hippies. And I've seen so many things, so it's been so full of life, and it's bathed in an orange light of memory when I think of this kitchen table. That place has defined my life as a filmmaker and in many other ways. So the minute I have some great actors and a nice conflict and a table, then I'm really, really happy and I feel at home. This is my arch scene, which is why Festen obviously came in really conveniently for me. And other movies. The Commune that I did with my wife, and this movie that much less people saw, and which I haven't seen since I did it. So yeah, a lot of tables. Even in The Hunt, I did a film called The Hunt, La Chasse, and it's a very small scene. There's a small gathering around a table in the kitchen where they get drunk and tease each other, and it's my favorite scene by far. And then there's some shit going on in the church that I like as well, but yeah, I like tables.
Generally, it's something that filmmakers don't like a lot because it's complicated to make a scene around a table. It's really easy on theater, for example, but
Yeah.
for filmmaker, it's something not so nice or inventive, but
It's difficult for the camera. Very
even for the axes and everything.
all of that.
Even when there is so much people around the table, it's
Yeah, you
always a
know,
mess.
I know all about that, yes. But I've done many tables, but I do them anyway. I really enjoy it, I have to say.
You said that it's something who come from your childhood, and when we see this extract, there is a strong link with music too. Is it something really present in your family, in your community, the music and the fact that there is music always, or?
Yeah, we played all the time. Yeah, we would play around the dinner table, and I would take out my guitar, and someone would take out his flute, and we would get something going. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we played all the time, in any place. Yeah.
And when you are working, do you use your music on the set directly to let the actor hear what you would put later, or it's really something you come after in the editing process?
Sometimes I do. Yeah. Sometimes I use music to inspire people, but less and less so, I have to say. I did some in my earlier work, and we opened every day with a lot of music. But other than that, I'll leave the music part of filmmaking to Tim. Right, he knows about music and films.
Of course, Tim Pop is here.
Yeah. But what goes for all of these movies, tables or no tables, or music or no music, is that whatever we do, whenever I make a movie, it's like, here's the movie we watch, right? And it begins here and it ends here, but the work is about all the rest. That's, when I write a script or when I work with actors, it's all about what they come from, where are they going, what do they dream of, what do they show to the world, what do they decide to hide from the world. And then it's about making the right little cracks into what they hide, to make the audience curious. So that's why I said earlier, it's about hiding. It's about what we don't see. And that's where all the hours, weeks, months, and years of work is. When you watch a movie and you feel that this is a community that actually would have existed and would have been equally mad, even though we didn't arrive with a camera, this would have happened anyway. Then you've made something successful. If you make a moment that stays with you, or a character that stays with you, a situation that stays with the audience, then even more so. That's the utmost, that's the finest we can do. And it's all about hiding. It's all about what we don't show.
It's something really present in your cinema, this idea of secret, something hidden in the film, but do you say everything to the actor, or you try to keep something secret about the character, or what they have to play? Not to say them everything they have to do, or just to keep something for you.
Sometimes I keep secrets. I play a little game with them, you know, like with the extras of Festen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't tell them all these extras what this movie was about, and they just want to hang around the famous actors. And suddenly, one of the famous actors was accused of child abuse, and they got really fucking frightened. And we filmed that.
They didn't know that before the shooting.
No.
Okay.
Problem was that all the camera guys, we had 3 guys going at this point, and they were all over the place with the camera, and nothing could be used, but because they got all excited. But yes, I would play tricks like that sometimes. But normally, when I approach actors, I approach them as professionals. There's other directors approach actors like as a therapy thing, where you disturb them, or cheat them, or torture them, or flatter them into situations, and try to grab it like that. But the actors that I choose to work with, have so fine instruments that I can approach them as professionals with a method, which means that I tell them what we're doing. I share with them what we're doing. They can have complete faith in what I'm saying, and I tell them when they're bad, and I tell them when they're good, and I tell everything. I share everything with them. That's, sometimes I play games, but normally this is my approach to an actor. It's very important not to play too many games. There's so many uncertainties when you're an actor. There's so much on stake. You have to reveal yourself. You have to appear almost naked. And you can fail, and you can end up looking ridiculous. So if they don't trust you, it's a very bloody game. And and it can be horrible. So the first thing I do is make sure we trust each other. And
how could you be sure of that when you meet them, talk with them? You like to make some rehearsal, for example, or you just try to spend time with them before the shooting?
Well, I open up for my weaknesses, for instance. Most of the films that I've done, I've been writing myself. Mm-hmm. And some of my writing is not great. It's always like that for everyone. There's weaker scenes and better scenes. And if I feel I have a weak scene, I tell them. I say, today's material is difficult, and I've found it difficult to make it work. Help me. Which allow them into the laboratory, and which creates trust between us. But also you have to remember, when I write a script for an actor, it's a long process. I don't just write a script. I write script for specific actors.
You know with whom you want to work.
Well, they all get famous and get agents, and then suddenly they want to read scripts before they attach, and blah blah blah, and that complicates this process. But what I'm trying to make movies with my friends or with actors who I hire even before there's a script. And then I develop these characters with them. To that regard, you can take this person and put them out of their comfort zone or back into their comfort zone if that's what you think can work. We're here to make them grow. We're here to make them grow in front of the camera. Like a rose bush, you have to cut it down sometimes and torture it, and sometimes you have to leave it and let it go. And this process for me starts already in the writing. And we have meetings, and then I rewrite and blah, blah, blah. Then I do rehearsals with them. Mm-hmm. And I don't like rehearsing the written scenes too much, because those I would rather do in front of the camera. So we improvise the scene before the written scene. Like, here's a guy, he has to propose marriage to a woman. And then you improvise the scene in the lobby where he's waiting for her. Where he's having a conversation with the lobbyist or the concierge. And suddenly he can reveal a lot about his character. What I also learned in working with actors is that there's a duality between playfulness and work, and hard work. And you can't do either or. For me, it's a lot of hard work with the actors. It's also even boring sometimes, and we even disagree sometimes. But it's hours of work where we conversate, we improvise, we do things that doesn't work, we do things that works, and somehow we find the corners of the character so that when the camera flicks on, they can let go of all the work. And we can be irrational and stupid and foolish and say stupid things and still feel calm about what we're doing. So the radicality, the improvisation, the provocation, the courage for all these very important elements comes out of hard work. But you just have to know when to stop working, when you have to take it out of your brain and put it into your heart or into your genitals again. You have to be able to control this process. I use alcohol for that.
What, sorry?
I use alcohol for that.
Okay.
It's brilliant. You have to detach your brain, drink. It's really good.
And also, you are alone with the actor during this rehearsal, or there is part of the crew or other people with you?
I like bringing the DOPs, depending on the DOP. If it's a person too full of himself, then I don't like bringing them. But But if it's a humble DOP who wants to get to know these people and wants to interact and is curious about them, then I bring those, and then they film it. So this duality between letting go, not giving a shit, being courageous, being a rebel, and then being a professional hard worker is very difficult to manage. I see a lot of film students who have this misunderstanding that if they're professional enough, they'll find a place in the business. But it doesn't go alone. You also have to find that irrational element that makes it your own, which is playful and which is courageous and different.
But how could you find that? Because it would not happen in a film school. It's not the right place to do that.
I think
outside it, maybe after the school.
It's like when you pitch an idea to your friend. You learn at film school that you need a conflict and a beginning and an end, and you need a main character and an arc for the main character, blah blah blah. All that, great. But you also need something sensational, something radical, something that is your own, or something so pure that you can't even pitch it. Something that makes you shy at telling, but that keeps you awake at night, which is yours. Something extraordinary. I remember watching this a French commercial once. It's just a graphic example of doing something extraordinary. You may have seen it. You're French, some of you, right? And so here's this woman riding through Paris on a bicycle with a little bit of a tiny dog in the basket.
Yeah, in the basket.
You saw it?
No. I just imagine that there is a basket
and
on
then
the
she
bike,
falls, and she's okay, but the dog flies through the street. And by accident, the national French soccer team goalkeeper is in the street. And he throws himself and throws slow motion through the street and catches the dog. Fine, nice story. But where this gets extraordinary is when all the ladies come out of the windows and applause him, and he's getting so excited with this dog in his hand that he does a goal kick and kicks it away. And that's where the commercial ends. And for me, it's a good example of something that has been a tough sell. I'm sure the bank would have said, dude, we're not sure about the end. But it's what draws attention and makes me remember it. So always when you pitch your ideas to your friends, or you work with your collaborator over a script, and the person goes, no, that's crazy, then maybe you're onto something, right? Or on the other, less sort of rebellish, strong end, if there's something you can't explain, but that stays with you and stings and keeps coming back, then maybe you're onto something. The safe pitch that just works and has a beginning and a middle of an end, blah, 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 all that, it might die in a week. And I don't know. I'm not even sure what I'm talking about anymore. But it's, I guess I'm trying to explain that what we're doing here demands a lot of work and professionalism and money and business. But without the originality and the fragility and the extraordinarity and the little scandals, it's worth nothing.
Did you discover that film after film, or you knew that when you did your first film? That maybe there is something specific about you? Because when we saw your first film, for example, we were amazed by the film, but we didn't know who you are and what kind of film we will do after that. And then, maybe there is now 10 films after this first one, we can see a kind of continuity, a lot of obsession, a way of directing actors, a way of playing and writing stories. But is it something that you have in mind from the beginning, or you just define yourself film after film?
Well, now speaking to a group of people about what I do makes me sound super certain about what to do. Mm-hmm. But if I look back at my filmography, I'm a little bit ashamed about the mess of it. You know, I've been in this corner and this corner. I've been searching everywhere. And I've done plenty of mistakes. huge mistakes. And I've had a gazillion humiliations for those mistakes.
As what for you? What is
rejections, horrible reviews, nobody wants to see the movie, all of that.
You mean the reception of the film, not the film?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, making the movies.
Yeah.
Making the movies is always a pleasure.
Okay.
Well,
you like to be on the set and to work with actors.
That's wonderful. The horrible thing is we have to show them.
Yeah. So for you, bad review, for example, it's a mistake. You did something wrong. If you feel guilty about that.
Of course. It takes 2 years of my life and some million of some other people's money. And if you haven't shown courage, for instance, or if you haven't had the right clarity, or just if it doesn't work, then I feel ashamed of it, of course. It's a lot of effort behind every movie. And
so you regret the film itself, or not really?
I don't really regret the movies, but I can regret my mistakes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't you? Yes, but I can say that it's a mistake. It's something in your life. It's an event in your life.
Yeah.
And maybe the reception of the film is something else than making a film. Of course, it's really important because we are making film for the audience, not for yourself, of course.
Right.
But I'm not sure that I can use the word mistake.
Well,
when the film lost money, of course. When the film is not a success and there is a huge question with money and everything, it can be an economic mistake. I can understand that.
Yeah,
that's right. But
you know, it's a really difficult thing to make a great movie. You really, really have to work hard, and everything has to succeed. You can have a soldier in a full uniform, and all the medals and everything is nice, but if the toe is broken, and there's this limp, it just doesn't work, and people go, fuck off, shove it away. It's really difficult. And then you can regret the toe, badly. And that's how it is to make a movie.
We were wondering, in Scandinavia, we hear everywhere and read everywhere that it's like the peaceful places in the world. So we were wondering, in your films, you show an opposed picture. So why is that? Can you say more about that?
Oh, you say that they claim it's the most peaceful place in the world.
Yeah, like we hear.
The happiest country of the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard about that. I'm not sure. I don't know how to measure that. Happiness. Well, my stories grow out of my country. So these stories are part of the country as well. And we do have the dark sides of life as well. I'd like to see ourselves as a little shire full of happy gnomes, but we're not. There's a lot of fear and particularly these days, a lot of aggression against anything foreign. And as a small kingdom of ours, the relation between the individual and the community becomes really important. This is something important. As a small, frightened community, you can be very brutal. I've seen that in the commune, I've seen that in the film society, and I've seen that in my country. And those stories has to be told as well. But yes, it's a nice country. I'm still there, and I enjoy it.
But there is something in common between your country and ours, the fact that it's quiet countries with a lot of violence on it, not really explicit, but a lot of violence. But something is really different about the relation that we have with family. Generally, in our cinema, violence comes from outside, in another country, foreigners, people outside the country. In your cinema, not in all Danish film, but in your cinema, it's really something that comes from inside the family, not the community, but the family, close people, parents.
Yeah, even from the children in this case. Mm-hmm. Well, I've always had this urge to talk about, to say whatever the truth is, even though the truth is unpleasant. In the case of La Chasse, it's about children lying, and it's about children causing pain to grown-ups, which is obviously something people don't feel pleasant about talking about. But I've always, it's always been part of what I do. I was beaten up for it once, actually, as a kid, in a public bus. I was bashed in the head for telling a guy that he was stupid. But he was stupid, and I went over and I told him, and he knocked me down, and then I learned. But I've always been doing that. Now, the enemy inside can be as violent and as horrible as the one from outside, but I do realize that we might have something in common with this little rich, happy, beautiful country that you have here. I think you're richer than us, though.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But we make not so great film. You are better than us in filmmaking, I think. It's what everybody's thinking, so I can lie about that.
Yeah.
You are better.
Well, there's not many people making Danish movies anymore.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, well, many of us, Susanne, myself, we've all gone abroad, which is a bit of a shame. I think we should come back and do some more Danish movies. Yeah.
And how Danish audience see you? They like your film, or they're really disturbed by it? You are really successful in Denmark, for example.
Yeah.
As successful as you are outside it.
Depends on what movie. The first clip you showed was bashed in Denmark, but La Chasse was huge in Denmark. You know, it varies, but yeah.
They like you. They like your films.
I think they do. Yeah.
Okay. You said that there is no more Danish director for cinema, but there is a lot of series for TV.
Well, and also there's some great new Danish directors coming.
Okay.
And they have space now, because we all left.
You left.
Yeah, not only me, but a lot of
more.
us left. Right. And then there's the Danish television, yes.
And is it something which interests you, making a series for TV or something like that?
I would be interested in that, yeah. Having found the right story and the right consensus, and I would love to unfold characters for over a time. I remember doing Festen, and we worked so long and so hard to make this family real. And then suddenly it's over. And I would have loved to spend more time with these characters. So already back then, I thought of that. But I haven't found the right structure for it yet, or the right moment for it.
And do you think that your film from Lars von Trier or from Sutenbier changed the Danish society, or not really?
I don't know
during
if
the 20 last year.
I think, I don't want to say that any of us changed anything, but what we do is a reflection of our society. It's a mirror to our society. And with a bit of luck, and with a bit of honesty and a bit of hard work and all of that, yes, it does stay with people, and it makes them reflect on their lives. That's at least the ambition. Whether it changes things specifically, it's very difficult to tell. I think I read on a poster here that a world without movies would at least look very different, I think.
Do you have a question for Thomas? Yes, if someone can give a mic there. Just here.
Hello, first of all, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
With us. So I have two questions for you. The first one is when you were talking about when you started the Dogma with the last 3 years, and you said something about it's really enjoying to take a huge risks with other people's, and you gave that metaphor jumping a cliff, holding hands with someone. But did you have in your life a time where you had to take a risk only on yourself, a huge risk only on yourself, and how would you describe the difference by taking a risk with someone and taking a huge risk only on
you mean
yourself?
privately?
In movie making, or in your life in general?
Wow. Well, yes, you have to take steps all the time, and you have to. There are conflicts that you have to awaken, and there's things you have to approach, which can make me really scared, of course.
What's the difference when you take a risk and you're alone, and when you take a risk when you have people with you who takes it with you, and it's kind of reassuring when you have someone, but how, I mean...
Oh, there's something, I don't know, something incredibly lovable, sexy, that can appear in a group if you do something dangerous together. It's part of a group dynamic, which feels really, really good. It's like a drug you share a little bit. It's like when we did that film so many years ago, Festen, everybody felt nervous, but we were together about it. So it was a strange sensation. I don't know how to describe it really, but it's really inspiring for creating art, I think.
And the second question is about Yachten, that I really, really enjoyed. I worked with a kid also for my diploma film that I did last year, and even though it was really, really hard to direct a child, I really enjoyed it, and I would love to do it again. And I wanted to know if you have some. Can you talk about the experience you had directing the little girl in your film, and how you did? Did you have to play some tricks? And
well, this particular girl is not typical for a child actress. She was extraordinarily good, and I could actually direct her as if she was an actor. It was quite intimidating for Mats, actually, because it was always like camera at her, and I say this plus half of this, and then remember to turn around and do this. She, yes, sir. And then she would just like nail it, and everybody would applaud. And then Mats, he felt a lot of pressure from this little girl because she was amazing. Mm-hmm. But normally working with children is different. It's more one-dimensional in some sense, because with an actor or an actress, you want to motivate, you want to create background and stuff like that. And a kid wouldn't really get that. It's more like walk over there, look sad, say this line. It's more Clint Eastwoody, you know. It's more simple. But then again, you can get an incredibly truthful result from that simple process. But it varies from child to child, and what's important for a child is you don't talk too much. Directors generally talk way too much. It's a disease amongst directors, and you can kill actors and actresses by talking too much. But a kid, it's really fast, like gone. So keep it simple and keep it engaging. And actually bring that when next time you talk to your grown-up actors. Keep it simple.
Yeah, that's what I learned also. Yeah, I was like, I should do that even with adults, not talking too much. But the little girl in the hunt, so she was able to learn a dialogue. I remember that scene. It's a question. Was she able to do that?
To do what?
To learn a quite long dialogue, like.
Yes, she learned all the lines, more or less. But she had a brutal teacher.
What do you mean by brutal?
She's brutal.
Okay.
She would tell her off if she wasn't good enough. But she enjoyed this experience. She enjoyed it like she could easily understand that she was very good at this. And she was unambitious about being an actress. She wanted to do ping pong, actually. But she enjoyed people laughing and applauding her all the time. So it became sort of a sport for her. So when she was told off, she was like, okay, yes, I got it. And she learned the lines. She was brilliant, amazing.
How did you choose her? How you would be sure that you'd be the right person for the film? Because a lot of students will work with children next week.
Yeah, but it's the normal casting process. So 100 children, actor. And then there's one standing out. And as always, she did not at all look like the girl I imagined. Mm-hmm. So it took a couple of days for me to sort of overcome my own obsession with her having dark hair, which you can't really explain why she should have. But it's very important, but it's not. You know, there's all these kind of boundaries. Mm-hmm. Because you build up a world, writing a script, and you kind of stick to that world. And then suddenly the world is a blonde, and things are different. And then as a director, you have to be open. You have to be open to suggestions and little presence that comes in front of you. And she looked entirely different of what I described, but we could tell from her rehearsals and her readings that she was extraordinary. And then you have to work with it and write for her and rewrite and make
rewrite for her.
Yeah,
so you change things for her after finding her.
That's the most important thing as a director, is to being able to listen, see what happens in front of you, see those presents that may come in, and use them. And if someone comes in and looks wrong or has the wrong age or something, rewrite it and work it so that it grows.
Adaptation, adapt yourself to the situation, always.
Right.
Another question. Yes, just behind you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to ask something about the writing. Like, do you have special emotions when you write, like especially Jagden or Festen, or where does your writing come out? You know.
Well, to begin with, when I started making movies at the age of 19, writing was something I had to do because no one else wanted to write for me, you know, and you need a script. And I felt it was a long, dreadful process. But having grown older and actually having spent most of my life writing, and less on a shoot, because it takes so long writing a script, I've really become addicted to it. It's the moment I really enjoy. And it's a lot of different emotions that comes through you when writing. But if this magical thing happens where it starts writing itself, it doesn't happen too often. It's almost like falling in love. It's not every day you can get into that. But sometimes it just starts writing itself. And you know what this guy is going to answer to that, and it's even surprising what she answers. You're in I don't know, it's a poor word, but you're in a sense of flow. That magical feeling is extraordinary, and that's what I'm constantly pursuing. And I'm constantly trying to prepare and trying to attack my writing so I get into this weightless moment of just writing, and where everything just makes sense. I always say that writing for me is a lot about the distance between you and the computer. If you arrive in front of your computer in a negative, ungenerous state of mind, it's wrong. The work begins before. You need the generosity and the courage and all of these elements before you start. I guess it's like an actress or an actor going on stage. If you know your lines, you have your techniques, fine. But you need this thing. You need to shine. And it's the same with writing. You have to arrive in the right way. Hemingway has a lot of tricks about writing. You should write, if you want to know tricks about writing, read his books. One of his best tricks is very simple. Is when you write and it's going really well, that's where you stop. Don't finish it. Don't go down the hill again. So you have to start it up next morning. Stop with a comma, where everything really works. So you have your upstart next day. There's a lot of tricks about that, a lot of discipline.
Here again.
Yeah.
Actually, we had also another extra that I hope we can see later, because we have another question to another accent. But so now to that one, would like to know how you, because it's really interesting to see such simple gestures in a movie, and that's something that that stays in the mind, like the thing maybe you said about the dog before. And one of these simple things, how do you arrive to these things? It's something you improvise on the set during the shootings, or is something that you already wrote before? This the gesture of the hand on the light, for example.
This was written in the script. This film is, other than being about a community, it's about a woman losing her husband, and it's about the loss of youth It's about the attack of age and death, and about the disintegration of your flesh, and in that way it's a very confrontational film. And in this case, she's being reminded of their happy moment. The happy moment, their sexual intercourse as two adults fitting together like one person, inspired by Nick Rogue's Don't Look Now, by the way. And then her, later in the movie, slightly alcoholic, seeing that light is a memory. It's a way to transport ourselves back to a happy moment of hers. So that was I was writing. But I never stopped writing. You can always rewrite. You can always invent these things. If you miss something, then don't believe when they say the script is concluded and closed. You have to keep these things open and keep your imagination open to it. An example of that is when I did La Chasse. Mads Mikkelsen was written as a tough guy, a blacksmith, like Robert De Niro in Deer Hunter. That's what inspired us. And then Mads got attached to the movie, and there was just something slightly, I felt, he's so great looking, and he's so tough. What's actually his problem? I just couldn't feel this character enough. And I think 2-3 weeks before shooting this movie, I called Mads and say, wait a minute, what if you're a school teacher wearing glasses, stepping aside for everyone in the sidewalk, and in every conversation you have with whoever it is, you're the lower status? He said, yeah, let's go for it. He was up for it. And suddenly the film arrived in front of us, 2 weeks before shooting. And suddenly the scene in the church, where he starts bashing people, was written like very, very shortly before the shooting, which was probably the best scene in the movie. Because we kept it open. And it's very fear-provoking to do that. It's much nicer to agree with your producer and everyone that this is the deal, this is what we do, and we know it works, and it worked in the past. But if you have this sensation that it doesn't work, then you have to keep looking for little moments like we just saw there, or for a radical change of your main character.
You said something about Robert De Niro, and you know that there is a kind of special focus about New Hollywood in this festival. What is your relation with this?
With what?
New Hollywood, with this period of film history, American film history. Is it something really close to you? You feel linked to that, or?
Define New Hollywood.
Yeah. No. If it's something important for you, you feel that your films are linked with this.
Hollywood in the 70s.
Yeah.
A great deal. This is what I grew out of. I grew out of a mixture between those movies and some Scandinavian movies, Bergman's movies. And then I was hit with a hammer from Tarkovsky's movies at a very young age.
Who showed you those films?
I just went to the movie and saw that. I was not a cinephile. I just went to the movie for some reason. Just thought, well, this looks.
Tarkovsky too. You just went there.
I just went there.
Okay.
And I was scared shitless,
okay.
And I didn't understand anything, but it never left me. This was not a normal thing for me to do, though. It was just a lonely thing to do. I don't know what to do with myself. I go to the movies. Yeah.
The last question yes. Give the mic to Colombe.
Hello. I think you almost respond to the question, but I would like to know which are your favorite movie or movie that influenced you before.
Tarkovsky.
But which movie, like for example?
Well, Stalker, in particular, I think is amazing. Fanny and Alexander by Bergman. Deer Hunter by Christopher Walken, who's somewhere here. By Christopher Walken. But there's plenty of movies I really love. I don't have like one specific, but those movies lately has been on my mind. Yes.
And because we are a little bit egocentric, French cinema too.
Well, the last French-speaking film I saw was Canadian, and was amazing. Was not the last one I saw, but the last one that really got me was Mummy from Dolan. It's a kind of French.
Not really. It's an American director. That's right.
Canadian.
Yes, Canadian. But in the past, in the French New Wave.
Well,
or in the
Godard, all of that.
70s.
Yeah, of course, we saw all that. Yeah, and I loved it. Yeah. Godard, so forth. Yes.
And for you as a director now, what is challenging for you for your next film? What can be a challenge for you?
Well, the decision of a movie is always very challenging. It's always very difficult to decide what's next. And that's why I think Bergman, the Swedish director, Ingmar Bergman, told me not to spend too much time on it. He said, always choose your next project before the opening of the one you're working on. And I said, why do you say that? Then I'm busy editing or in sound or something. And he says, that's exactly the point. Then your choice will be much more nonchalant. And they will be shorter from the heart to the hand. Spending years speculating about what kind of director you are, what kind of films the audience are looking for now, it's just going to kill you. It's going to bring you nowhere. And I know that by experience.
And there will be less anxiety because you know that you will do another film. When your film will be released, you are still working on another project. So, in a way...
Right. You know, there's these Philippine tribes who say, take big things in life, don't take it too serious. But very small things in life, take it very serious. Think about what to prepare yourself for dinner. That's fucking serious. But spending hours or months or years thinking about what kind of director you are, what kind of film you should do, is going to bring you nowhere. Just make a decision. Just grab it and do it. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I sometimes find lack of courage. I think I've decided my next movie 5 times, and my wife up there keeps saying, but Thomas, you've decided already. And then I call my agent, I read something, should I do this? No, you've decided. And it's a great idea. My next movie is about alcohol.
Give you some tips before.
It's a celebration of alcohol, and we had an interesting conversation about that. Yes.
Yeah.
Before we arrived, we should share. Before we arrived in this room, he told me.
I will deny everything. But
he told me how to inhale, get drunk through anally.
A lot of my students, and I lost all my credibility now, you know.
And I've known this person for 10 minutes.
Thank you so much.
It's great idea. But yes, my next movie is about alcohol, and I'm looking very much forward to that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you.